What in the fuck? All right. All right. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Troy, and this is another episode of the Mental Health Podcast, where we talk mental health. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope everybody's had a fabulous Monday. I appreciate you all for tuning in and rocking in. Today we got a good buddy of mine coming on. Somebody who's shared similar afflictions and has battled his own mental health as well as addiction, and he's going to give us a great insight on what it's like and what he's done to overcome and how he's coped. And um I'm very, very proud of this guy. He's really kicked ass. I mean, in the few years that I've known him, I mean, he's making great strides. He's bought his house, and he moved out of where he was at. And I'm just really happy to see the guy doing well and really just kicking ass. So everybody, please help me welcome my boy Shane Kelly. What up, Shane?
What's going on? How are you,
Big
man?
dog.
How's things?
Oh man, they're going. How are you feeling? I know you're not feeling too hot, so
Yeah, whatever. It is what it is.
real man shit.
Move on.
I am mad at that. I am mad at that, dude. I really appreciate you fighting through and sticking through it, and coming to join us and grace us with your presence, man.
Man, I'm honored to be on. I'm obviously a good friend of mine, and I'm a fan of what you're doing right now. So, when you guys asked me to be a guest when you first started out, I felt great. So,
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a good platform, and see where we're at, and just have a discussion about life.
Yeah. No, I mean, you were one of the first people that I thought of when I for guests when we started this. You were one of the ones that I knew that we would eventually have to have on, because I mean, you offer an incredible insight, not only through addiction and mental health, but like even in the music industry, because that's where we met and that's where we bonded, and that's where we where we got our start was music. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yep.
Doing that little Easy E show.
That was epic, bro.
That was such a crazy show. That was such a
Oh,
good
it
show.
was such a great time.
That was one of the first ones that I had done with Spark.
Right.
That wasn't his album release party, because the first one was the Northern Hospitality release. Remember
Yes,
that?
I
Yeah,
do. Yep.
up at the Lily
So
Pad.
funny story about that weekend. So the Little Easy E concert was that weekend, and I had planned on going down to Union, New Jersey for a grind mode cipher, VIP only, like
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah.
snow goons and all kinds of like crazy names in the building that night. And I had planned on going solo to that. Then like Tyler posted some stuff about the Little Easy E show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, I'll come down a day early and camp at your house. Then we'll just mosey on down to Jersey. And he's like, all right, do whatever you gotta do.
Hell yeah.
And offered me up his couch for the night. So yeah, that was great.
Hell yeah. I'm really proud of him too. I know you've been keeping tabs
Amazing.
on
And
him, and him being a dad and finishing up the
yeah,
car. And I mean, we had our moments, but we kind of, we figured all that shit out. And you know even during all that, I was incredibly proud of him, watching him from afar and watching him do his thing. And
man,
it's been really great to watch. So I'm
I've,
very
I've known,
thankful for.
I've known Tyler since he was like 15.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so yeah, to see where this kid's at today, like I fucking high five, bro.
Honestly, yeah, you are not lying. Um, but yeah, so you have a different perspective on things than most of the guests that we've had on. Um, as you publicly talk about, your battles with addiction and all that stuff. We've kind of prioritized mental health, but like the addiction and mental health aspect kind of go hand in hand. Um, so like kind of give us a rundown of what you've gone through and what you've experienced and what kind of perspective you can offer.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, like a lot of other people that, we got caught up in, just doing the everyday, after work on Fridays, going out, having drinks, let's grab an eight ball,
Yeah.
like you sit at the bar and, when the eight ball's gone, you get another one, and then, Sunday afternoon rolls around, you're still awake, stuff like that. So, it all started out innocently enough, like, like a lot of people start out. And then, um, I was doing coke, and I got introduced to the OC80s back in
Yeah.
the mid 2005 ish, 5 or 6 ish.
That was my mom's DOC.
Yeah, so once those got a hold of me, it was forget about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I battled with those for a few years, and um, honestly was basically punched in the face by my family. And my mother was like, "What's it gonna be? The drugs or your kids?" And at that time, I chose my kids, and I stayed clean. For I don't know 6 8 months. I didn't touch anything. I was afraid. I figured I'd lose everything. So
Yeah.
but that only lasted so long. And then I had access to all this stuff basically next door. It was family was selling them.
Yeah.
I could go to them anytime I wanted with any story I had. They let me get in the hole $2 3 thousand sometimes, and
Wow.
it was just accessible. So I
Right.
abused it. I did what every great addict does, and just abused everything I had my hands on. So
Of course.
um, the funny part about it all is I stayed working. I stayed in the same job. I had the same job for like 10 years during that time. I was, coaching little league and coaching
So
pop
you were
water
functional.
football. I was very functional, and a lot of the times um, when I didn't know what to do, that was the only thing that really kept me going was having that kind of an outlet.
Right.
Feel normal during the height of the addiction. And was I high as a kite on the field most days? Yeah, absolutely. Like it was just a bad scene. And what's funny is, that lasted, a good 15 years or so. And in like 2018, I finally said, fuck it. And, got clean. And when I used to talk to my wife, I've been with my wife for, geez, 28 years now.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. So it used to be like when I would talk to her about, why, like, what are you still here for? Like,
Yeah.
why just head for the hills? And she always says the same thing, like you just said, you were present. I never had to worry about if you were going to be there. I
Right.
never had to worry about if you were off somewhere else with somebody else, or you were always present to our family. And I knew eventually, she says, I knew eventually, you'd come back and you'd be on the other side of it. So if we didn't lose you, like
Right.
things got bad there for a while, and it was hit or miss. I never OD'd. I never did any of that stuff. I have a lot of friends that are dead.
Yeah, same.
I personally, um, and maybe I did. You know what I mean? Maybe I did it in small ones. You know what I mean? And my body rejecting stuff. I just didn't full on blown like end up in a hospital or having to be Narcan or anything like that. Like my
Right.
body rejected it a lot of times. And when I got, when I knew I wanted to get sober, it was time.
Yeah.
I at the time when I wanted to get sober, the OC80s were gone. They were long gone. They were probably 5 or 6 years gone.
Yeah.
So
Because they were turning into puddles at that point.
well, yeah, exactly right. You couldn't grind them up anymore. You couldn't
No.
find them anywhere. You couldn't get real ones. So the 30s, everybody, the Smurfs, we called them Smurfs.
Yep.
those became the biggest thing around. And like I said, I had family that just transferred from selling OCs to 30s, and again, it was so easy to get.
Yeah.
Um, but then at some point, they started to change as well. And being an addict, the taste, how it's supposed to feel when you do it,
Right.
how it's supposed to make you feel when you do it. And that was changing. Like it was a different feeling. It was a different drug. It was a different. The way they broke down was different. So you started second guessing what you were getting. So I knew if I didn't quit, that I'd probably end up dead. And I needed an avenue to get clean without having to do methadone. I didn't want
Right.
to do methadone. I didn't want to go Suboxone, because basically all you're doing is trading that to a government now funded opiate, and
Yeah.
it's another addiction altogether. And they say it's harder to get off of. And
Yeah.
watching family and friends battle freaking methadone for the past 15 years, I'm glad I didn't go down that road.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I know people that are still on it from years and years ago, so, like, it's
it just holds you. I mean,
yeah,
like it's a comfort thing. It's free. You get it every day. And as an addict, and I know the way my brain works, is I'd still be on it today,
yeah,
and I wouldn't be sober. So I started researching different avenues and different ways to get sober. And a friend of mine was telling me about, he's like, people use mushrooms and LSD. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't touched that stuff since I was 20. Like,
right.
I can't do that. My brain will never come home from that, you know? And,
Yeah,
and I was like, no way. So, of course, me wanting to get clean, I go home after work that day and I start researching on Google, going on the websites and going and reading the studies, and
yeah,
you finding out that it's actually legit and that it's true. Um, I was like, maybe I should try this, like maybe
yeah.
this might work. So just for fun, I went back to work the next day with the same kid that we were talking. And I said, bro, I can get us a pound of cocaine and 5 million opioids right now, but
But
where
where
the
the
hell would I
fuck do
get
you get
LSD
mushrooms or
or
LSD? Yeah.
mushrooms? Like, I have no clue. And
Right.
he's like, yeah, he's like, the festivals are around. So there's people I know that might have them. He's like, I'll ask around. And so a couple of days goes by, and I almost kind of forget about it, because now we're actually working at MIT, doing a fire alarm project. So we're consumed with
Right.
doing the right job with what we're doing. And I kind of space it out, but I'm still kind of using, those days that I'm talking about getting clean. Not as much, but still talking about it and still doing
Yeah.
it. And this kid comes in one day with a, tiny little manila envelope. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's like 3 hits of LSD I brought you. I'm like, how much do I owe you? And he's like, nothing, just take it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I took it home and I sat on it for like 6 weeks and sat there and looked at me on my side table, and I would play with it and I'd look at it and I'd twist it around, and it was in a clear cellophane thing. So I was like, wow, this is like legit. Like, I remember this stuff.
What's crazy about you saying, like, it sat for 6 weeks, which means, like, 6 weeks went by without you, like, going and getting high and, like, you know what I mean? Like, regardless, you did that, like, subconsciously, and you were able to just push through that, which is fucking incredible.
I still got high a little bit. Like, I would still, every other day or so, I'd go grab something. You know what I mean? But it
Okay,
wasn't
yeah,
an
yeah.
everyday thing. It was like my life, bro. My life at one time was 4 a.m. I was up before work, and I was at the dealer's house by 4:30. Getting my
Wow.
supplies for the day, and then I'd go off to work, and that was my routine. I didn't
Wow.
decipher from that routine. It was that way for many, many years.
Right.
So, um, by not by not having it readily available to me at the time when I was trying to get clean, because we were living in Saugus, Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
we had moved away to Woburn, Massachusetts, which is about 25 minutes away, but it was like 35 minutes to 45 minutes from my actual dealer's house. And it was a
Oof.
hassle, you know what I mean? To get there
Yeah.
in the morning was a hassle. I was up now at 3:30 in the morning to get there, so I wasn't going as often, and I was kind of trying not to go,
Right.
but I would get sick and I would get achy and I would get, I would start feeling that opioid withdrawal,
Yeah.
and I would need a fix, you know. So, back to the LSD stuff. So this kid gives me the LSD, and I'm nervous. You know what I mean? I'm scared to death.
Of
I'm like,
course.
am I gonna be like the guy on the street with the long hair and no shirt, middle of the winter time, 50 years
Yeah.
from now? Like, hey, got to change,
Burnt the
you know,
fuck out.
the guy that never came back from that trip.
Hmm.
And
We
and
have a
I
guy.
started,
We have a guy like that in the town that I live in.
I think
He's on
everybody
a
has
permanent
one.
trip. Yeah, of
Yeah, I think
course.
everybody has one. And so I started researching and I started reading, and I wanted to get clean. Like I was at the point where I needed to get clean.
Yeah.
So um so my wife and my kids went away one weekend up to New Hampshire where our camp was. And I was like, perfect. Like I'm gonna come home Friday. I'm gonna rent Fantasia and like all the movies I watched when I was tripping back in the day, and just kind of see where it goes. Like I loved
Right.
it then. How am I not gonna love it now? So they went away, and I came home and I ate two. And I was like, let's go, baby. Like I'm just gonna go. So
Huh.
I ate two, and I took off, and it was the greatest feeling in the world. I was back in euphoria. I was back feeling like the amazing feelings and happiness. And, I knew it was a synthetic and it was only going to last for, 10 hours or so. And then I'd be back into my misery.
Right.
But it was the feeling of euphoria was something I hadn't felt in so long. It was, those receptors were blocked, like those
Yeah.
during the opioids, you're not feeling anything but what you need to feel to get healthy. And I kind of like it. It opened my mind up a little bit more than it was already open, and not a lot
Right.
of time. So I had one left, and a couple weeks later I did it again, and through this time I felt like I was like hitting a wall. Like, okay, like I know I want to quit, but like how am I going to do this without being dope sick and without like feeling all that shit that I don't want to feel, and without feeling all the feelings I don't want to feel. And I called up a kid that I thought might have some more LSD because now I'm out of it and I like it. So, I need more. So this kid at work
Naturally.
that I knew would probably have some. I didn't know if he did or not, but I thought he might. I call him up and I said, hey, weird question. I'm looking for some Lucy. And he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, like maybe like 10 hits, depending on how much. He's like $50. I'm like, oh, that's still $5 a hit. All right, cool. So that
I'll
was very
take 100.
yeah, exactly. Right. So so I so I bought 10, and he lived in Manchester, New Hampshire at the time. I was in Woburn, Massachusetts, and that's only about 35 minutes away from each other. So we took a drive down to my house, and when he got there, he gave me the 10 hits, and he had this other stuff, and like those the carts that you buy for weed, and
Yeah.
the clear tubes that they come in now.
Yeah.
Well, he had a clear tube, and it had a yellow substance in it about halfway up the tube, and it was granular, and it looked like Molly, something along those lines. And I
Yeah.
was like, bro, I'm not trying to do Molly. I'm not trying to do any of that stuff. I'm like, I just want some Lucy. And he's like, no, no, no. He's like, you're trying to get sober, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, here's some DMT. He's like, this stuff will blow your fucking brains out, and you'll get sober using this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, right, okay. Like,
Right.
what the fuck is this stuff that you're handing me rocket fuel fucking LSD? Like, I'm good, bro. I had to talk myself into doing one hit 6 weeks ago, you know? So again, I dived down the rabbit hole because I've never
Yeah.
heard of this stuff, Here I am 40 years old, and I'm like, I've never heard of this stuff before. Well, like, what is DMT? And I find the spirit molecule, the documentary with Joe Rogan. And
Yeah.
I was a Joe Rogan fan. Like I listen to his podcast sometimes, and I like some of his guests. So here I am watching watching this documentary, and they're talking about how they um, how they were doing John Hopkins studies and Mass General and like all these big hospitals that were research hospitals, and they
Yeah.
were using DMT on regular addicts and people that were suffering with depression and anxiety and all these things that pharmaceutical companies feast on.
Right.
and I didn't want to go that pharmaceutical route, and for reasons that were obvious. I'd be hooked
Yeah,
on,
no, absolutely.
Xanax or a fucking Klonopin or whatever else they
Yep.
wanted to feed me for free, and and I didn't want to do that. So I consciously was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. Like I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it's gonna do. All I know is what I've heard. I'm scared to death. But if he says it will work for addiction, and all these other professionals out there say it's going to work for addiction, fuck, why not give it a shot?
I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right?
Right. So again, it was something that sat on my table next to my chair for a long time because I didn't have the right equipment for it, and I didn't have
Right.
the. I wanted to do it right, and and again, my wife and my kids went away for a couple of days, and here I am staring the right equipment in the face. I'm staring the scale that I bought. Everything I bought was to like measure it out perfectly and
Yeah.
make sure I had the exact right dose. I didn't want to do too much, didn't want to do too little. So I packed up my little vape pen with the coils, and away I went. And like I took a huge rip off of that vape pen and sat back, closed my eyes, and like it sent me into a fucking world that is undescribable. And I did it that day, and I only did a little. I did like a 0.30, 0.030, or whatever it was, like a 30.
Yeah.
And I, they talk about breakthroughs that you have on DMT, and I didn't have a breakthrough. I just kind of felt it out, and now I know what to expect. And I'm like, all right, now I know what to
Right.
expect. Well, that next like day, like I didn't have any like cravings for an opioid. It was weird. And like a couple of days went by, and then the opioid craving came back.
Yeah.
So like then I went and copped a couple, like, but it was like 4 days, like that I didn't feel like I needed anything. And I was like, whoa, like I've never felt like that without body aches, without the sickness, without any of the other ailments of not doing opioids. It wasn't there.
Right.
So I was like, wow, this stuff's like maybe it's for real. And and I went, and about 3 weeks later, I did it again, but I did a higher dose this time. And
Yeah.
after the second time I did DMT, that was like in 2018, in November 2018. That was the last time I've ever touched an opioid, and like it like reset my brain
Yeah.
and reset my thinking pattern to like not to chase the drug. I don't know how it worked. I don't want to question how it worked. I just know it worked, and it was for me.
You're just thankful that it worked.
Yeah, no question. And I wasn't fucked up from the drugs that I was just
Right.
using to make it work. So, um, and then I put that stuff aside for a while, and I didn't. And I said, let me see how long this is going to last. Like let me see how long I can do this without having to go back to that.
Right.
And to be honest, I might have done it one more time because I was with a group of friends that were interested in doing it.
Yeah.
So I did it recreationally with them just to kind of show them because now I'm a huge advocate.
Of
It worked.
course.
And everything
Yeah.
else stuff worked for me. It might work for you guys that are all trying to struggle and everything else right now. Um, so I became that commercial for DMT at work, and people were like, yeah, whatever, dude, you're out of your mind. And
Yeah.
but I got sober, and it helped me. And then the journey became, the sobriety journey, and trying to grow again, and trying to find myself. And
Yeah.
I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, maybe a week or two ago, about recovery and sobriety. And like I've been sober since 2018, so pushing 10 years,
Yeah.
and 8 years now. So
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's
thank you.
that's
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
huge. We'll have to
I
celebrate. We'll have to celebrate 10 years.
yeah, no doubt, bro. and and the funny thing is like for the first maybe 4 or 5 years of that,
Yeah.
I was sober, but I wasn't recovering. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
I was,
so, like, you were just, like, maintaining, basically,
yeah.
you know what I
So I
mean? It
was
wasn't
right. I was just kind of like going through the motions.
yeah.
And I wasn't working on my internals. I wasn't working on my mental health. I was still a basket case. I was still like, Like everything bothered me. It was like it was just the thing that was happening. You know, I
Yeah.
knew I'd done right by myself by getting sober, but I knew that I had to do right by everybody else now by changing my attitude, by changing the way I interact with people, with changing the way I interact with my employers and my employees and my friends. You know, just in
Yeah.
general, my family. Um, the craziest thing to me was, after a couple of years of me being sober, and as I started talking more openly about being sober, my daughter, who was probably, I don't know, 16 at the time, 17 at the time, she was like, "You were addicted to drugs?" And I was like, "Yeah." And my wife was in the room when we were talking about it, and she looked at my wife. She said, "I never knew." And my wife said, "Because I did my job, Maya. Like
Yeah.
I kept it away from you guys, and I kept it away from the kids." My wife is my God, like she's 100% every reason why I'm still here. And so it was really special to hear like the different views of while I was using, like how people viewed me. You know what I mean? Because I didn't
Right.
know. You don't know like how people are looking at you. You think that it's a certain way. You think everybody knows. You think everybody's out, out
Yep.
to get you. Everybody's looking down on you, and sometimes they don't even realize that you're doing it. So, as much as you try to hide it, as much as you try not to let people know, sometimes we're really good at masking that. Sometimes we're really
Yeah.
good at not letting people in to like the realm, of addiction, and it's only for it's only for certain people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, everybody else kind of just gets the version of you they get the day that they're around you. Uh,
Right. Whatever mood that happens to be, however, you know what I mean? Like you woke up with a hair across your ass and it was game over.
yeah, 100%. Or you woke up on a great side of the bed and everybody was your friend that day. But yesterday you were yelling at some dude and chewing his face off, and he's like, "Dude, what the fuck? Like, we can't keep doing
Yeah,
this."
you go from here to here in like less than 24 hours. It kind of, makes people look at you weird.
Yeah, sometimes less than 24 minutes. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, like, and then I I maintain now. I don't use, I have LSD that's been in my drawer for, I don't know, 2 years now. I haven't touched it. I don't
Yeah.
have even know where to find DMT anymore. But I do enjoy I do enjoy using mushrooms as a
Yeah,
as a
hell
ma-
yeah.
as a maintenance drug. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't do it all the time. If I go down the lake, down the street here at my house, and I'm going to go kayaking for the day, I'll eat a handful of mushrooms and go enjoy nature, and go like kind of reset, and kind
Yeah.
of let all the cobwebs back out of my head, and kind of retouch the receptors to each other, and make sure everything's still working there. But once I started to work on my internals and my mental health,
Yeah.
life became fucking amazing, bro.
So that was going to be my next question is you know, that's a long stretch of time that you were telling yourself I need to get clean. I need to get clean. You know what I mean? We know it was at least, a handful of months. What did that do? Like how did that internal battle compromise, or how did you cope with the mental health side of things? Cuz I know that like you can't just do what you were doing and just be fine. You know what I mean? Obviously you're going through some shit. So like
Right.
how did that affect you? How did that
To be completely honest, like, are we talking before I got sober and then like into my beginning of my sobriety?
So, I'm talking, like, from the day that you decided, "I need to
Oh,
get clean."
done.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, really strange. So we lived in Saugus, Massachusetts, like I said, and then when we moved to Woburn, um, and it became more difficult for me to get to where the drugs were. Um, then, like, I really started inventorying like what I had to do, because it would that move was big for us because it got me away from the bullshit where I
Right.
wasn't 10 minutes away from it anymore at any time of day I wanted it. Fucking 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm making a phone call. Come on over. You know what I mean? I'll leave them in the
Right.
mailbox for you, type shit. You know what I mean? So um, to be able to be able to separate myself from the ease and accessibility
Yeah.
now make it more difficult for me to want to go get it, to make it a chore, to make it to make me want to go get it, um, and then also want to be clean. So the battle here I am like, okay, I really love getting high. I mean, I fucking loved it. I mean, I think we all do when we're getting high, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so, and then I really wanted to get sober. So there had to be a clash at some point of the two of those feelings, and it became me wanting to be cleaner, me wanting to be clean more than I wanted to be, friggin' addicted.
Right.
And I think a big part of that was just life was changing for me. My kids were getting older. I was getting older. The drugs were becoming dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing more people fall out around me. I didn't want to be a statistic. Um,
No.
the bank account was starting to be like, bro, like,
We can't do
yeah,
this.
yeah, this isn't such a good thing anymore. Like, so yeah, I fought a lot of different feelings, a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, and at the end of every day, I'd go to bed and I'd want to be clean. I wouldn't want to be fucking high. I wouldn't want to have to get up and have 2 pills next to my bed so I can function, in the
Right.
morning to go get more fucking pills, you know,
Yeah.
like, so it was tough. Um, I was very irritable. I mean, my wife and I, probably fought more than we ever had at the beginning of that time. Um, and then it just became like good friends hanging around. Like now, I was having friends over on Fridays to do like cookouts. My friend John Savia, Poetic Killer. He's a rapper from this area. You've probably seen me share a bunch of his stuff, and
I
him
have.
and I are always talking together. Um, that's my dude, and he would come over, and him and his cousin Eddie would come over, and we'd go down to the Brazilian butcher shop. We'd buy some strip steaks or some, New York strips, and put them on the grill and just hang out. We'd drink, but I wasn't doing pills. We'd smoke a ton of pot, but I wasn't doing pills.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
at the time, my wife was working nights, so she was in Beverly, Mass, like 40 minutes away, and it was just the boys. So it was a nice change where, you know, we were away from each other for a little while, and we weren't at each other. I had a different crew of guys now around me that didn't use those drugs, um, which was
Your environment changed.
100%, bro, like 100%.
So that leads me into my hold on, I'm sorry.
No,
That leads me into a question. How like on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it? How important do you think it is to change the environment you're in when you want to get clean, you want to get sober?
it's the only way you're gonna get clean. So 100%. It's not going to start off that way. You know what I mean? It's not. It's never going to be like 100%. I'm going to change. Boom. You know what I
Right.
mean? Now all of a sudden, you have to start mentally telling yourself like, I can't do that stuff anymore, and I can't be around those people, and those situations I put myself in, and those things that I'm doing to myself. I'm doing them to myself. I don't have to go by there. I'm
Right.
choosing to do all that. So once I got into a different way of seeing things and a different crew to hang around with. And it wasn't even a different crew. I just hung out with them more because now I was closer to them
Yeah.
as far as where they lived than I was to the drugs. So it helped out a lot that they were available on Fridays and Saturday nights sometimes to come over and hang out. Because if not, I'm probably hopping in the car and going the other direction.
Right.
Um, and I think that they knew at the time that I was trying to do that, and I think that they consciously became like my crew on those nights, knowing that those nights were the hardest nights that I dealt with during the week.
Right.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean it really does take a village. I mean, and it's people when I say that, people automatically assume I'm talking about children, which yes, obviously it takes a village. But when you're trying to make drastic life changes like that, getting sober, addressing the mental health issues that you have. Um, you know what I mean? Doing all that is just it's commendable. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
That's all good, bro.
um, so
Not
I have a question. You're a huge hip hop and music head.
huge.
So, what influence did like how did you lean on music at all to like help you through
Yes.
sobriety? Like, is there an artist that you just like, that resonated with you in that time? Like, kind of give me the music aspect about that because as a person who loves music myself, I was a rapper in a former in a past life, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
dog shit. I'm dog shit these days, but um, hip hop still plays a massive part of my life.
Yep.
Granted, I listen to a much different like side of hip hop like right now, and I mean for like the past almost year, I've really been on like a Suicide Boys, like that kind of rap, hip hop for a long time. Mainly just because of the versatility. I mean, you've got songs where I could sit in my car and cry to, and
Oh
then
god.
and on the same album, dude, I got songs that I could get bucked to, and if somebody caught me on camera, they would probably think I was doing a bump or two, you know what I'm saying? So, like
Right.
and, like, they talk about mental health and, nowadays, like, I don't know if you've kept up or no, but, like, they're sober, they've given their life to God, and they're really doing the damn thing, and they're putting out phenomenal fucking music.
Yes.
But like they address all that stuff and in a way where like it resonates with not only like my generation but the next generation because they're all into that kind of shit. So like what was that artist for you or like what was that for you?
So wicked funny. Um, so Malcolm McCormick, Mac Miller
Oh, okay.
became became my muse.
Yeah.
uh,
I hear
he
that a lot.
yeah, just I was into him when he first came out. I actually met him a couple times, but he did some. I met him on the very first Wiz Khalifa tour.
Wow.
It was an underground club tour, so the Middle East in Cambridge is where they came, which is like Toads
Yeah.
in Connecticut. So they came up to the Middle East. Malcolm was like second on the bill after Wiz Khalifa. So Wiz Khalifa was the headliner. Then it was Malcolm, and then one of the artists that I was working with at the time was before Malcolm. Um, so we're hanging out in the green room, and this is way back. I mean, I'm talking like
Yeah.
2012, maybe 13,
I was
right?
gonna say it's got to be like 2012, 2013
Yeah.
era because like I was fresh out of high school when
This
that
is
tour.
even before kids. Like this is before his kids out. This was mixtape Malcolm.
Oh shit. Okay. So
that piff, like
I was
that
gonna
piff.
say that piff, man.
Yeah,
What a
bro, like
fucking
crazy
era.
shit, right?
Hold on,
Um,
before we get into this, can we just agree that for that period of time, in terms of mixtapes, nobody did it better than Lil Wayne.
Nobody.
Lil
Come on,
Wayne, Lil Wayne
Little Wayne's a
ran
general. Like he's a general amongst pawns. Like
facts,
that.
dude.
Forget about it. Like you can't even put Wayne on a
I
stage with
had
those
I had
cats.
somebody tell me that Nas and fucking Jewels were better than Wayne. I was like, during the mixtape era, bro, you're
So
smoking
yeah,
rocks.
definitely not during the mixtape era.
No.
Maybe at the beginning of their careers, obviously Illmatic's, it's untouchable.
Yeah.
Um, but Lil Wayne came from the gutters, bro. Like he came from mixtape era. He came from the backpack era.
Yeah.
When everybody was around, just handing out mixtapes and spitting
That like
verses.
500 degrees era
Yeah,
was
getting in ciphers.
crazy.
Yeah, getting in ciphers with people, and just all of a sudden you'd hear a verse pop up from, what the hell was that? Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, music obviously, bro, plays a huge part in my life. Huge, and it's not just hip hop.
Right.
I mean, I'm 51 now, so I listen to country, bro. Um, so us
Oh
old heads,
shit.
you know what I'm saying? Like some of that shit's pretty good, bro.
Yo,
And
my man moved further up north and said,
yeah, I live in the
"Fuck."
mountains. Yeah, I also live in the mountains. Shit, dude got a pretty mouth. But yeah,
Not the purdy mouth.
not the pretty mouth.
That's crazy.
But yeah, Malcolm,
Diabolical.
like as far as like really like verses and like lyrics and production styles and all that type of stuff was Malcolm.
Yeah.
Um, Mac, he like people used to be like, "You really love that dude." And I'm like, "Have you ever really listened to that dude?" And a lot of people are like, "Well, no." And I'm like, "Well, maybe you should, like,
Right.
because he's battling some shit too." Um, and you got to see the progression of his, younger stuff where he was just a kid,
Yeah.
and then as he got more famous, it got more dark. It got really dark for a while, and
I
then
mean, it got really dark. So I mean, I was never a Mac Miller fan, but you know what I mean? I listened from time to time, and like going from like Loud and Donald Trump to like Swimming was like,
yeah,
brother,
unreal. Uh,
unreal.
Swimming should have won a Grammy hands down. And Circles, both of those albums probably should have won a Grammy.
Yeah.
But just so coming out of his darkness, right? So I have a lot of problems with the way Mac died. Like I have a lot of like issues with, um, it ended up being like a bad drug dealer, giving him some bad shit. Eventually, that's what we found out. But he like, so Hollywood, the whole Ariana Grande time and all that stuff. So Hollywood
Yeah.
got their hooks into him, right?
Of course.
And and he figured out, and he talks about it in his music at that time, like, and he figured out that that's what was happening, and he started to backpedal from the Hollywood scene, and he started to like really like do his own production, and he started to really dive into his own, what I really want to do with music, where I'm not a hip hop artist, I'm just an artist,
Yeah.
and he started to like experiment with a lot of stuff, and that's the creativity that that's just absurd and insane to listen to. Swimming in circles, and
Yeah.
his postpartum stuff, and then they're digging through crates with Earl Sweatshirt, and all that type of stuff, and um, it was a good time for me to listen to that stuff. It was what I needed to hear. I
Right.
was an older cat listening to that music too, don't forget. So I really had to have an open mind about what I was about to experience, because here I am listening to kids and senior skip day, and
Yeah.
all those fun tunes, the Blue Slide Park, like you said, Donald Trump, Nikes, Loud. Um, but then he comes out with like Rap Diablo, bro, and blows your fucking face off, and you're like, whoa, like what the hell was that? And then
Right.
it progressed from there. And then the stuff that he would talk about was more on a plane of what I was trying to deal with, like mentally, because he was going through it mentally. So there was a lot of dichotomy, kind of like bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
Uh, my feelings and his feelings at the time when he was making these songs and this music, really really hit me, and then when he passed, I really dove in deep, and really got into his stuff, because now I have an emotional connection to this cat that I
Yeah.
really don't have one, but I do,
Right.
um, because it's music, and music's emotional, and I just like you said, I'll sit in the car and cry on some songs, and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and then there's other songs that I want to drive through traffic at 900 miles an hour, and
Yeah. Facts.
weave in and out of people, and
Yeah.
freaking like drive up whatever. I'll go drive off the side of a mountain you want me to. But it's just as you were an artist. I was never an artist. I was always on the management style side of music,
Right.
and the production side of music. I had a good ear, but I could never put anything down because I wasn't a musician. And I didn't know how to rap. I was kind of in the middle of all that stuff, but to be around artists, and to be around artists that even like, I mean, I was around Mac Miller, who I think was a great artist, maybe on the pinnacle of greatness. And then
Yeah.
I'm around some underground cats where I think there's some genius minds underground. You know what I mean? Like I dealt with a lot of Boston cats up here, and when I met Tyler, immediately I was like, Tyler's this fucking like kid genius that
Yeah.
like what is like he's so old in his soul,
Yeah.
like the music that he makes. And like I asked him one time what like one of his favorite albums was, and he hit me with like Third Base, the Cactus album, and that's like one of my favorite albums of all time from when
Yeah.
I was in like ninth grade, bro. And I'm like, how the fuck does this kid know about Third Base, the Cactus album? And then
Right.
I would see like he would go out and buy CDs, and he'd spread them out, and I'd be like, what he has no business listening to this stuff. Like he's not old enough for this stuff, but that's what connected us, even though he's a young cat. The
Right.
music connected us, and you're a young cat because compared to me, and the music connected us, and then
Yeah.
my boy John, who's my ride or die, like that's my dude. He's 30, 26. I mean, whatever, 27. Like it's the young. It doesn't matter. There's a bridge that goes between the ages, but the music brings you together,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then when you connect with somebody on a level of like I consider John my brother.
Yeah.
Um, we're just not blood. Tyler, same thing. Like I consider him like a nephew because I watched him go through all the stuff he's been through, and
Yeah.
he knows that he can reach out anytime he wants. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You guys, your family, you and Haley, like the minute I met you, I knew that we were good. Like I didn't. We didn't
Oh,
have to be
yeah.
fake. We didn't have to be fake around each other. We didn't have to try to impress each other.
Right.
There was there was nothing. It was just love. It was just good feelings, good vibes.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, absolutely.
and
Um,
there's not a lot of that out there. So when you find that connection, it's like a connection you hold on to.
oh, for sure, especially when you bond over something like music, you know what I mean? Like music has so many different avenues. You know, it's incredible and there's so much to bond over. Um, whether it be subjects or artists or genres or you know what I mean, eras. It's there's so many connectable levels where like it might not have to be rap, but like oh shit, you heard something that was sampled in this song, but like I listened to the original shit. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Well,
many
I'm
levels
wearing
to it.
Dead and Coast. Dead and
I
Coast.
saw I
Like,
chuckled when you pulled up on the screen there.
like
Um,
that's one of my favorite bands, the Grateful Dead. Like I'll listen
yeah.
to them for hours and hours and hours. And
Oh,
you
dude,
know,
I feel you. It's the same with these guys because there's a song for every mood. There's a song
yeah,
for every vibe. And
100%.
it's great. You know what I mean? There's some like screamo shit in there. Um, and like there's some like not fucking there's some heavy shit.
I
Um,
gotta take my dog outside,
yeah,
but
yeah, no worries. There's some heavy
I'm
shit, but then there's some like really good positive positive stuff. I mean, hell, I think you've actually commented on it. The dagger tattoo that I got on the back of my calf
yep,
um is actually a Suicide Boys tattoo.
right,
And at the words around it say rusted hope can always be cleaned and made into gold.
okay,
And like when I heard that line
right.
resonated with me like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, yo, fuck, because like most people think when they're washed up, like, oh, just fucking brush the dirt off, wring the water out, and like
Who
keep
gives a shit what everybody else thinks? If you don't think
right,
they're washed up, that's all that matters.
keep on keeping on type shit. Life's a garden, dig it.
Right. All right, Joe Dirt. Joe Dirt. Okay.
Joe Dierte.
Look at all the snow I got.
That's fucking disgusting. If I could take my entire setup outside and show you what we have, I mean, it kind of looks. Actually, no, you have more, but like we definitely have a lot of snow still just kicking around for absolutely no good reason.
The dog runner. You done? Let's go. Come on.
Dude,
Sorry. My
no,
wife's
no, you're good, man. But yeah, I mean, like I've been contemplating like dusting off the old pen and pad here, um,
it
and
might do you
just
some good, bro. It might get some stuff off. Do you know what I mean? Like that writing.
yeah.
I write. Um, I write because I like to write. Like I've written poetry. I've done stuff like that. I just haven't
Yeah.
did music.
So, I mean,
And it's
that's where I
always a
got
little
into
easier.
writing music was poetry actually. When I was in like my peak depression in like high school, I had this one teacher, I'll never forget this shit. I had this one teacher. Um, I tag her in like best teacher shit face on stuff on Facebook all the
Okay.
time.
Yep.
But Miss Molsky, man, I like had my head down in class one day. It was English class. She's an English teacher. And had my head down one day and she came up to me after class, kind of kept it real with me and like was talking to me like a human being, not just like a you know teacher and a student, you know. And she like kind of gave me like a probably more in depth than she should, but like in depth, like version of her life. And I was like, yo,
Okay.
fuck, like I resonate with this shit. And she got me into writing. She's like, yo, just try this, try this, try this, try this. I promise you, you know, it'll work. And I got into that and I started writing songs. I started writing poetry. I started writing everything. And then after a while, I just stopped because, like, you know, life, life
No,
happens.
exactly right. 100%.
Life be lifing.
Yes, life is always lifing and will never stop lifing.
No, it will
So
not.
I went to one of the Pats playoff games this year, and took a buddy of mine, Jay,
Yeah.
who's also an artist, kid that's going through some shit right now. He lost his mom not too long ago.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, and she was like really important. You know, they did everything together, and so I took him to the game, and we were walking. I don't know if we were walking through the supermarket before the game to get food, or if we were at the game walking in, or something like that. But I said we were talking about just life, and I said, "Well, I said, you know, you can always try anything once." And he's like, "Hmm, I guess you're right." And I'm like, "Yeah, I go, nobody says you can't try something." I said, "You can try
Right.
anything once." I go, "It just depends the outcome at the other end is if it's going to be favorable or not." And he was like, "No," he's like, "I never really even thought, you know, like, nobody's there to stop you. You know, you can do anything you want as long as
Free will is a crazy thing.
it really is. You know, it's a human trait that many people don't really think about more than once in their life, and they say, "Oh, well, I got to do this because you know that's what everybody else wants me to do." So,
Yeah, everybody's become so autonomized and like it's just
right, and
no one has an original thought.
so I don't know, maybe like year and a half ago, I finally decided to be like, "Fuck you to everything," and
Yeah.
focus on me and make sure that I'm okay. And when I figured out that I finally am okay, and that when I wake up in the morning now and like I go to the mirror and I look in the mirror and I see the person in the mirror and I tell her, dude, I love you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
I mean, that's crucial. That's like ultimately the end goal.
well, it really is. You know what I mean? And it took me a long time, even through sobriety and recovery and all that stuff, to really to really feel that way. You know, I used to talk the you know I used to talk a good game because you know when you're trying to help other people out and you're trying to like
Of
you know
course.
have advice and stuff like that, you always tell them, oh yeah, you know I tell myself I love myself all the time, you know, because that's what
Yeah,
they
they don't
want
do
to
that
hear.
shit.
Yeah, and nobody ever does it, but you know what? Like I watched a show, a couple documentaries, and they were talking about the you know the power of positivity and you know the power of being able to manifest stuff through positivity, and negativity will hang around as long as you want it to, and then you can get rid of it. And once I started to really practice like mental health on myself, that's when I grew, and that's when I realized that I'm now recovering from my addictions and not just sober. And
And thriving, might I add.
thriving, well, I mean, my bank probably tells you a little bit different, but
See, but it's not all about that. But like,
no,
you
it's
know what I
not
mean? Like
monetary at all. You know that.
I see your posts with your family and all that stuff, and I can't help but have a shit eating grin on my face because like, yeah, everybody deserves that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, it's dope to see, especially you know what I mean. It's not everybody that's in the same situation that you were in can come out of it.
Yeah, no,
You
you
know what I'm
know,
saying?
it's
That takes more people than it lets go.
it does. It does. And I've had a good support system around me, you know, like you know, my like I said, my wife's been my anchor. You know, I
Yeah.
know that she's going to be there, so I don't have to worry about that. Like that's not something I worry about. Like I don't worry about coming home and her being gone. You know, I
Right.
don't worry. If that was going to happen, it was going to happen 15 years ago, and it didn't. So
Right.
I know that that anchor is always in place, and as long as I have that anchor in place, and we now have a place to anchor down, it's easy to work on mental health. It's easier to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, hey, you know, don't be a fuck up. Or hey,
Right.
you know, let's do better today than you did yesterday. Or
Yeah.
you know, little things. I was again watching something, and it was a comedian. The guy that takes his shirt off all the time. I can't think of his
Bert Kreischer.
Bert Kirshner. So he was on a podcast like you and I are doing right now, and he was talking to somebody, and he said, he grew up in New Smyrna Beach, which is in Florida, and he was a surfing kid.
Yeah.
So he always wanted to go out in the deep water, with all the big kid surfers. But he knew all the deep water, that's where the sharks hang out. And New Smyrna Beach is a huge shark attack
Yeah.
capital of the world. So
Yes, it is.
so he was always afraid to be out there. And he would surf in and he'd see his little buddies, that he hung out with outside of surfing in the
Yeah.
small area with the small waves. And all his buddies would always say, "Hey Bert," he's like, "The small waves are just as fun, bro. The small waves are just as fun." And we ended up losing one of those kids. And he says that he goes back to the beach and surfs the small waves now
Yeah.
because it's the small shit that's important.
I
So
like that. The small waves are just as fun.
yeah, the small waves are just as fun as the big waves, huh? You're gonna end up in the same destination eventually.
Yeah, true
You
that.
have to pick your surfboard up and bring it back out there. You're only gonna have to go further out if you're in the big waves.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, he made a lot of good points, and I picked shit up along the way. A lot of people that I've worked with that were in sobriety, a lot of people that I've been around that were in sobriety,
Yeah.
even people that aren't in sobriety that have never had problems with drugs and alcohol, that are just good people, that are just good people to hang and talk to
Yeah.
and get advice from. Like I've taken stuff from a lot of people in a lot of different places and used it to my benefit. You
It
know,
kind of, I mean, it kind of goes back to one of the episodes where Zip and I were talking about, having some of the greatest conversations with complete strangers, you know what I mean, in the most random places. You know what I mean? So like
yes, absolutely,
because a stranger has no reason to be biased towards anybody. They're just going to give you what they see. They're going to give you their opinion. And
exactly.
some of it you may not want to hear, but a lot of it is like it sticks with you more than like something your best friend might have said because you guys talk all day every day. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. Because a lot of times your friends are going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
They're not going to be honest with you and tell you, um, smarten up. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now, big boy.
Yeah. 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 No kidding, dude. Yeah. Man, like, what a crazy story you've got. Like, like, you're gonna be. I feel like you're gonna be one of those guests that does multiple appearances because I mean, we touched on two topics in the hour that we've been on, three.
Right?
And I mean, you and I alone have talked about, you know, so much more than what we've touched on tonight. So like you're definitely going to be a repeat guest and I love that. And I really like, I'm so thankful that you were here and I'm so thankful that you were.
No, like I said, man, I'm honored. I'm honored you even asked me. I'm just an old guy that lives out in the woods.
Yeah, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're gonna have to wrap up here in a second, but
Yep.
I I just can't thank you enough. I can't, express my appreciation enough. Not only for your being here, but just for your friendship. You know what I mean? I mean, for Haley and I, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Same.
as an individual, as individuals and as a unit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
100%.
meeting up with you in Salem that one time that,
Oh, great
last
time.
year was incredible. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like
Unbelievable.
I appreciate that, the extension of the olive branch, even though, we've only known each other a handful of years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Whatever. Good people are good people.
that's true. But yeah, so I thank you for existing. Thank you for,
No,
you
man.
know,
Thank you guys. Like you, you, even though we've all been dealing and all been battling our own bullshit. Um, Even last year when you guys came down, like things weren't fucking peachy. You know what I mean? I
right.
don't think any of us had peachy, like, and
No.
we just put it aside for the day and had a great fucking day. And then you guys went back and had another great day. So,
Yeah,
like little things like that where you can get out and you can experience life with someone different. And, you can just, put things aside and appreciate what you have around you, like
absolutely.
that's why we moved up to where I'm at now. We're up here in the woods, and I live on a dirt road in the backwoods of New Hampshire, and side of a mountain.
Yeah,
And
I can't come and visit you like 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Right, like these ones.
I drive a rear wheel drive BMW. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't make it up my hill. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
it's we moved up here to get away from the craziness and kind of just settle into our next chapter. Uh,
Yeah.
my son has a grandbaby, and that like you said, we could have 10 more segments and
Oh,
talk
absolutely. Yeah.
about
There
life and things. You know,
yes, we
uh,
can.
we didn't even get into you and your family and your daughters and your wife and all that stuff. So
I mean but that's fine because like what I'm here for like this is your space, you know what I'm saying? Like when I have
yeah,
my guests
fair
up
enough.
here, it's their space. I you know what I mean? I want to hear that side of things, you know what I
Right.
mean? So like I appreciate that you took the reins on this and really just let us into this small sliver that is just really one era of you. We haven't talked about the teenager era, going to like hip hop shows, and we haven't even gotten into that, but like that'll be maybe we got to do a music
The,
podcast.
the, the crazy criminal felon,
Yeah.
those years, the prison years, the all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an open book these days. You say it, we'll talk about it.
Hell yeah. Dude, Shane, again, it's been a pleasure, and
Roy, thank you, buddy.
I can't thank you enough for coming on, dude.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Of course, buddy. We'll see you soon.
All right, man.
All right, peace. Dude, what a great episode. Great time. Uh, I love that guy to death. He always has the right thing to say when you need it the most. And we always need people like that. We always need friends like that. But, you know, as per usual, it's your boy Troy. This is the Mental Health Podcast. Catch us next Monday with, I do believe we got my boy Zayden coming on the show. I'm gonna have to double check with that and make sure, but I'm 99% certain that that's who we got coming on. I'll keep y'all posted, but it will run at 8:30 p.m. like we do every single Monday. So from my family to yours, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Peace.